What if the only man who could shield you from a cruel world turned out to be the one who made you question your own heart? Could a professional promise between two men in America evolve into something deeper, forcing them to confront their true selves? When the lines between protection and passion blur under the weight of family expectations and societal scorn, will they have the strength to choose a path that defies everything? Leo stared at the rain streaking down the tall windows of his Chicago apartment, each drop blurring the skyline like the tears he refused to let fall. At 28, he had built what looked like a solid life. A steady job as a graphic designer at a mid-sized marketing firm, a small circle of friends who knew his secret but never spoke it aloud, and a carefully guarded distance from his conservative family back in Indiana. But 3 weeks ago, everything cracked open. During a late-night client meeting, he had casually mentioned his boyfriend at the time, not even a real relationship, just a few dates, only for the words to reach the wrong ears. By morning, HR called him in. Discrimination dressed up as cultural fit. They fired him quietly, citing budget cuts, but the whispers in the office corridors told the real story. No one wanted to work with the gay guy who made them uncomfortable. He spent days scrolling through job listings, each rejection stinging deeper than the last. Then a friend slipped him a card. David Rivera, civil rights attorney. He's the best, the friend said. Takes cases like yours pro bono when they matter. Leo dialed the number with shaking hands. The receptionist booked him for the next afternoon. The law office sat on the 23rd floor of a sleek Michigan Avenue tower, all glass and steel, the kind of place that screamed power. Leo stepped off the elevator in his only decent blazer, heart hammering. The waiting room smelled of fresh coffee and polished wood. When the door opened, David appeared, tall, broad-shouldered, 32, with dark hair neatly combed and eyes the color of strong coffee. His handshake was firm, warm. Leo, right? Come in. Inside the office, diplomas from Northwestern and Harvard lined one wall. David gestured to a leather chair. Tell me everything. No detail too small. Leo poured it out. The firing, the veiled threats from his former boss, the way his mother's last phone call had ended in icy silence when he refused to fix himself. David listened without interrupting, jotting notes, his expression never shifting from calm focus. When Leo finished, the lawyer leaned back, steepled his fingers. They violated your rights under Illinois law and federal statutes. I can file a complaint with the EEOC and prepare a civil suit. But more than that, Leo, I give you my word, I will protect you. No one will drag your personal life through the mud if I can help it. That's not just legal strategy, that's a promise. Something in David's voice steadied Leo for the first time in weeks. He left the office feeling lighter, almost hopeful. Over the next days, documents flew back and forth. David's team gathered witness statements, performance reviews that contradicted the budget excuse. Leo started sleeping better. But late one night, staring at the ceiling, he wondered why the lawyer's face kept appearing in his thoughts. It was just gratitude, he told himself. Nothing more. By the end of the week, David called. We have a strong case. Meeting tomorrow to go over strategy. My treat for lunch after. Lawyer's privilege. Leo laughed despite himself. For the first time, the future didn't feel like a trap. The strategy meeting stretched into 3 hours. David laid out timelines, potential settlements, the risk of going to court. Leo sat across the conference table, watching the way David's hands moved, confident, precise, while his mind wandered to the small things. The faint scar on David's left eyebrow, the way he loosened his tie when thinking hard. After the meeting, they walked to a quiet Italian place 2 blocks away. Over pasta, conversation drifted from the case to life outside it. David mentioned growing up in a Puerto Rican family in New York, the pressure to be the successful son. Leo shared stories of Indiana Sundays, church pews that felt like cages. You ever feel like you're living 2 lives? Leo asked quietly. David's fork paused midair. Every day, he answered, voice low. The words hung between them like smoke. Neither pushed further. Back at the office, David handed Leo a thick folder. Read this tonight. Call if anything feels off. Their fingers brushed. Leo felt the contact like static. The next weeks blurred into routine. David's team filed the formal complaint. Leo's former boss responded with a lawyer of his own, denying everything. Tension rose. Leo's mother called again, voice tight with disappointment. This lawsuit will ruin us in the eyes of the church. He hung up shaking. That evening, David showed up at his door unannounced with takeout. Figured you might need company. They ate on the couch, talking about everything except the case. David laughed at Leo's terrible impression of his old boss, and for a moment the apartment felt warmer than it had in years. But cracks appeared. David's senior partner at the firm, a conservative named Harlan, pulled him aside after a staff meeting. This case is high profile. Clients are watching. Be careful how much personal time you invest. David brushed it off in front of Leo, but the worry lines around his eyes deepened. Leo noticed. One afternoon, while reviewing affidavits, Leo asked, "Is this costing you?" David met his gaze. "Protecting people who deserve it is never a cost, Leo. It's the reason I went to law school." The sincerity in those words wrapped around Leo's chest like armor. Yet late at night, alone, Leo replayed every conversation. The way David's laugh softened when they spoke about dreams. The way he always made time. Gratitude was turning into something sharper, more dangerous. Leo pushed it down. This was business. Nothing else. The case hit the local news in a small segment. Graphic designer sues former employer for anti-gay bias. Leo's phone blew up with messages, some supportive, many cruel. His sister texted, "Dad saw it." He's furious. The family pressure mounted like a storm. David worked tirelessly, countering every motion, prepping Leo for deposition. Their meetings grew longer, more frequent. One rainy Thursday, after a brutal prep session, David suggested they grab coffee instead of heading straight home. They sat in a corner booth at a quiet cafe near the lake. Steam rose from their mugs. David spoke first. "I've been where you are. Not the lawsuit part, but the hiding." Leo's breath caught. David continued, voice steady but eyes distant. "My family still thinks I'm straight. Dating women in college was easier than explaining. Then I realized I couldn't keep pretending forever." The confession landed softly, like a key turning in a lock. Leo didn't know what to say. He simply reached across the table and squeezed David's wrist. "Thank you for trusting me with that." From that night, the air between them shifted. Conversations deepened. David shared his fear of losing the partnership if the firm's conservative clients found out. Leo admitted the panic attacks that hit when he imagined losing his family for good. They walked along the lakefront afterward, wind whipping their coats. David stopped under a street lamp. "Whatever happens with the case, I'm not walking away from you, Leo. Not as your lawyer. Not as whatever this is becoming." The words hung in the cold air. Leo's heart raced, but he only nodded, afraid to name it. Then the misunderstanding struck. Leo arrived early for a meeting and saw David through the glass wall, laughing with a woman in a tailored suit, arms brushing, heads close. He turned and left before they noticed. That night, doubt flooded in. Was David playing both sides? Was the confession just strategy? Leo canceled their next coffee without explanation. The silence that followed felt heavier than any courtroom battle. David noticed the distance immediately. He texted, called, finally showed up at Leo's building. "We need to talk." Inside, Leo's voice cracked. "I saw you with her. If this is some cover story, just say it." David's face paled, then softened with understanding. "That was my sister, Maria. She's visiting from New York, helping me figure out how to tell our parents." Relief crashed over Leo like a wave, followed by shame. "I'm sorry. I assumed the worst." They sat on the floor, backs against the couch, talking until the city lights dimmed. David admitted the pressure from Harlan had intensified, hints that continuing the case aggressively could cost him the partnership track. "But I'm not backing down," David said. "Not for them. Not for anyone." Leo reached for his hand. This time neither pulled away. The touch lingered, warm and deliberate. For the first time, Leo allowed himself to feel the pull he had been fighting. Family interference escalated. Leo's father flew in, demanding a meeting. "End this nonsense and come home. We'll get you help." Leo refused. The confrontation left him raw. David was there afterward, silent support while Leo cried for the boy he once was. That night they stayed up talking about futures, jobs, cities, lives without hiding. David's voice grew quiet. "I've never felt this sure about anyone, Leo. Not the kind of sure that fits in a courtroom." The words settled between them like a promise bigger than any legal document. But the firm delivered an ultimatum the next morning. Harlan's email was blunt. Drop the aggressive stance or face consequences. David read it aloud, jaw tight. I'm going to fight this my way. Leo saw the cost in his eyes and wondered if he was worth it. The deposition day arrived under gray skies. Leo sat across from his former boss, David beside him like a shield. Questions came sharp and personal. David objected repeatedly, voice calm steel. When it ended, Leo felt drained but victorious. Outside the building, David turned to him. We're winning. But I have to make a choice today. He explained. To win fully, he would publicly support Leo in a press statement, effectively outing himself to the firm and the world. It's the only way to force their hand and protect you completely. Leo's stomach dropped. Your career, your family, David cut him off. I've spent years protecting everyone else's secrets. Today I choose mine and yours. Together. The decision was made before Leo could argue. That afternoon, David released the statement. Social media exploded. Harlan called immediately, voice furious. You're done here. David hung up, turned to Leo, and smiled for the first time in days. Worth it. But the backlash hit hard. David's parents called, confused and hurt. Leo's family doubled down. Late that night, alone in David's apartment for the first time, they sat on the balcony overlooking the lake. I'm scared, Leo whispered. David pulled him close. Me too. But scared together is better than safe apart. The embrace wasn't about heat. It was about finally breathing the same air without walls. Months later, the settlement came through, larger than expected. Leo started a new job at a progressive agency that celebrated who he was. David opened his own small practice focused on LGBTQ+ rights, clients lining up because of the very story that nearly cost him everything. They moved into a sunlit loft together, not rushing, just building day by day. Family reconciliation was slow. David's mother eventually visited, tearful but trying. Leo's sister sent a cautious text. The world hadn't changed overnight, but their corner of it had. One crisp autumn evening on the same courthouse steps where the lawsuit began, David took Leo's hand. I promised to protect you. Turns out you protected me right back. Taught me how to stop hiding. Leo smiled, the weight of every fear finally lifting. They walked into the city lights, two men no longer afraid of their own hearts. The journey had cost them careers, family approval, sleepless nights, but it gave them something unbreakable, the freedom to be exactly who they were, together. In reflecting on Leo and David's story, I see that real protection goes far beyond courtrooms or promises on paper. It lives in the quiet courage to choose authenticity when the world demands silence. The lesson is simple yet profound. When love asks you to risk everything, the bravest answer is yes. Growth doesn't erase the scars, but it turns them into strength. Whatever secret you carry, remember, someone out there may be ready to stand beside you, not as a shield, but as a mirror showing you're already enough.